If you guys don't know our mission statement, thank you, Rachel. It's really big on our wall right here. Our mission statement as a church is that we exist to intentionally impact people with the love of Jesus Christ. There's that word, intentional, right? And so the Lord's had me thinking over these past few months and wondering, is that how we live our lives? Do we actually live our lives to intentionally impact people with the love of Christ? Because I believe that's what God wants us to do. And I believe the Bible is clear that we must be intentional in doing God's will. And so our passage for this morning, if you want to turn there, it's just 3 verses, 3 great verses in Ephesians 5. It's Ephesians 5, verses 15 through 17. And so if you will, turn with me. We'll read these together. Just think these are great, Galatians, Ephesians, great words that speak to intentionality in our walk with Christ and in our lives. Ephesians 5, 15 through 17. It says, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise but as wise, making the best use of the time because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." I think that passage is really clear, isn't it? It says, to understand and to walk in the will of the Lord, you must be intentional, right? You must watch carefully how you walk. I think there's a few things that I really want us to see about intentionality. And then as an encouragement and as a challenge, I want to issue up kind of a challenge to us with intentionality in this new year as a church and in our personal lives. And the first thing I want you guys to see about intentionality, as the scripture talks about, is that you do not do God's will accidentally. I think many believers actually live their life this way. They're accidental Christians. Let me tell you what that looks like. What that looks like is, I'm a pretty good person. I'm kind. I typically don't do stupid things, right? I show up. I come to church. I take care of myself. I'm presentable. I even know some things about the Bible. So surely good and godly things are just going to happen to me, and they're just going to happen around me. It just so happens that that's how it's going to be. As a person who doesn't wake up each morning looking for God in each moment and intentionally walking in obedience, they're just a good person, generally speaking, and they think that takes care of it. Man, maybe that person even, maybe they happened to mention church just in passing one time and someone showed interest, or they just happened to mention God and that sparked a conversation because someone else noticed. That's good. That's living accidentally. You're just hoping that your basic good instincts will get you into good situations, and because of that, God's going to be pleased with you. And I got to tell you, I have been this person, right? I am, generally speaking, I'm a pretty kind and helpful individual. I think that I have basically good instincts. And so without thinking much about it, I'm going to be nice to people. I'll offer to help. I'll be generous. Maybe even now and then, just out of habit, I'll even say a prayer every now and then. I've been that person. And I can tell you that person that's not what God's looking for. Accidental Christians. I think we look at this passage and we see we must plan out our steps and seek the will of God each day. We must actively know what God's desires are for us, and then we have to live those out. Because if you don't do it intentionally, if you're just living your Christian life accidentally, then you're going to miss so much of what God's doing around you. Brittany and I, if you guys know, we've moved here to Sand Springs right after I took this role about 2 years ago. So we're just under 2 years, but about 2 years we've been here. And in that 2 years, I have driven the same road to and from church and home a bajillion times, at least once a day, some days multiple times a day. I take that exact same path back and forth. And so you'd think that I would know it really well after all that, right? Hundreds and hundreds of times passing by the roads, all the homes, all the businesses, all the things on the streets, you'd think that I would know them. I don't notice anything when I'm driving on the side of the road. All the time, Brittany will be like, "Hey, Jordan, did you notice that house got painted bright blue? Or they built a whole new building here? Or look, there's a new addition going up over here." Nope. I didn't notice it. I didn't see it. I won't see it. Here's the way I drive. I feel like I'm a safe driver. I've been in some really bad car accidents. I was almost killed in a car crash a few years ago. And so I feel like I'm very aware of the things that are going to affect my drive. And so if there's other cars or something's going to run in the street or the cars in front of me, I'm very aware of those and absolutely nothing else. I could be driving to work and there could be like a massacre or a great heist going on the side of the road. And if it's not going to affect my drive, I won't see it. It's just not going to happen. I don't know why that is the case, but I concentrate on certain things and I will miss everything else around me. Even after years of driving on those same roads. You'd think I'd notice things. I don't. Here's what I think. I think sometimes that's our Christian life. I think we just get our stuff done. The stuff that we're supposed to get done, we feel like we're supposed to get done. We just kind of get our basic stuff done. We be basically a good person. And then we miss so much that's going on around us. We don't even notice. And I felt like this is something that hits especially believers that have been believers for a long time. It's really easy to just put your blinders on like a horse and just not notice. I'm just going to go. I know the 17 things I'm supposed to do, and I'm just going to do these basic 17 things. I'll be nice. I'll be kind. I'll say good things. I'll show up to church on Sunday morning. Okay, I'm fine. But we're not actually seeking God and what He's doing, and so we miss so much. And so, in the light of that idea, Pastor Jared and I started the Angus Cares Challenge. Now, you guys thought the Angus Cares Challenge, if you originally heard this, you probably thought, oh, this is just a way where we take $50 at a time every week and we get to go bless someone with the love of God. And it does do that. It's really cool that our Angus Cares, every week we've been able to bless someone randomly in different ways. And you've seen all the different ways that God's used that $50 to the Angus Cares Challenge. That's awesome. That was actually never really the purpose. Right? That's just a positive side effect. The purpose of the Angus Cares Challenge is to help us as a church notice and be looking for what God may be doing around us at all times. If any of you have done that, and you've seen it as they came on the stage and shared, often they'd say, man, I was constantly looking. Okay, what is God doing? Where could this be, right? You've heard that message over and over again. That was the point of the Angus Cares Challenge. Because far more important than just $50 one time is a believer who's opened his eyes to what God is doing around him. That's teaching a man to fish, not giving him one. That was the purpose. That's living on purpose. That's living intentionally. Man, could you imagine what it would look like if the entire church actively looked for God in each moment of every day? What is He doing all around me? You're not me as I'm driving. And I've been that person myself even in my life. You don't live accidentally, but you live intentionally, watching our steps to see where to go and what God's doing. How powerful that could be. And so I tried out something this morning to that effect. And if you have one, you're going to know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you'll be confused, but you'll catch up quickly. Raise your hand if you have an apple. Check that out. All right, for those of you who don't have an apple, you're really confused right now. Here's what I did. Hey, job well done, by the way. That was like almost the entire church. I gave one person, who immediately then gave some other people, but that's kind of the secret. I gave one person 120 apple stickers at 10:05. And I said, here's the deal. Before church starts at 10:30, before the service starts, I want you to get as many people as possible to have an apple sticker. You can give them a sticker, you can give a stack of stickers to people and have them help you give out the stickers, but you've got basically 25 minutes to get as many people to have an apple sticker as possible. And they got almost all of you. That was awesome. You may have gotten a sticker, you may have gotten a handful of stickers to help out. Here's what this is. If you had a stack of stickers, thank you, Gavin. When I first gave him a stack of stickers, or he may have given somebody some stickers, when you turned around, every person you saw you thought needed a sticker, right? And you didn't even know if they had one or not once it started spreading. And so you probably had to ask if they had one. And if they didn't, you give them a sticker, and then the best thing to do, right? And I know you did it because I saw other people with stickers, is to give them out and have other people help you. We reached 80 people in 20 minutes. Because you see everyone as a potential need, and you do something about it. I think you see where this is going. That's how we should live our Christian lives. He had a limited time and he had a clear mission. He had to be intentional and purposeful with his time to reach as many people as possible. We are called as believers to a clear mission, and not even tomorrow is promised. So we have a limited time. Our mission is to help people to have a real relationship with Christ. If we are focused and we are intentional, look how many people we can reach in such a short period of time. Pretty incredible, isn't it? Here's the deal, though. Second point, you can't just do it to do it. Now, I bet I even heard it said, why do I need a sticker? I don't know. Pastor Jordan said we need stickers, so you get one. I'm just giving people stickers. Okay, just take your apple and shut your mouth and move on. No. Maybe that was how you got an apple. You have to, you can't just do it to do it. Because if you just go through the motions with no real relationship with Christ, because see, it's that intimacy that Christ that matters, the heart matters. If you just go through the motions of Christianity without a relationship with Christ, you know what you look like? A Pharisee. Think about this. What would a church full of Pharisees look like? You ever thought about that? Look great. You know why? They'd show up to everything. They'd all serve. They'd know all kinds of scriptures. They would give faithfully. We'd think it's the best church in the city. And they'd all be headed for hell. You don't just do it to do it. Jesus' message when he came to earth, he made very clear that the heart matters, didn't he? You'll find it's pretty hard to please somebody you don't know. Intentional obedience will flow from an intimate relationship with Christ. And I can tell you, you know this because the same is true in your relationships. The same is true in my marriage, right? I need to really know my wife and what she cares about, and then I have to intentionally do the things and give attention to the things that she cares about. I show love that way, and I have to know her to do that. I have to be intentional to walk that through. Your relationship with God is the most important relationship that you have. And so we have to wonder, do we give it as much attention as we do all of our other relationships? If I'm honest, I don't. I'm trying. But we need to be as intentional in our relationship with Christ and knowing Him and following Him as we do it with anyone else on earth, because that is the most important relationship we have. And so, if we consider that idea of being intentional and being obedient, I think that we'll start realizing God is always moving around us. He's always moving. And imagine if you woke up each morning and you asked God to show you what He was doing, right? You asked Him to give you His heart and His eyes to see the people. You asked Him for opportunities to be faithful and to reach people. You asked Him for opportunities to be obedient. And then you watched each step of your day seeking the will of God. How that would change everything about your life. And so here's the humble thoughts. And some of you might have incredible answers. Man, you guys are an incredibly faithful group of believers. Many of you I look up to myself. But as I ask these questions, think for a second, honestly, about what the answers are. When was the last time you shared the gospel with someone? When was the last time you invited somebody to church? When was the last time you fasted? Biblical fast. God commands it. When was the last time you had an intimate prayer time with God? And I'm not talking about the token prayers we throw up before meals and stuff. Not that those can't be intimate and real. But intimate time of prayer with God. When was the last time you were in public, walking through a store, maybe you were at work, and you saw someone you didn't know, and you were moved with compassion, and you cared about their spiritual life, a stranger? When was the last time you were so caught up in praise and worship that you wished it would never end? I think Adriana could say about 10 minutes ago. I love that. We can't do God's will accidentally. We must be intentional. Okay. So we see the truth. We see the power of the truth. Man, I even think about the fact, I've mentioned him before. I've got a dear friend, him and his daughter, just really close to my wife and I. And he prays every morning for an opportunity to share the gospel with a lost person. And I've never seen someone share the gospel more in my life. Unheard of. I've shared the gospel with thousands of people in my life, and I can't touch Rick. It's unbelievable. He will make excuses. He'll go buy something from somebody on Craigslist looking for an opportunity to share the gospel with someone. I've seen how powerful this can be. I know how much this church knows the Lord. You guys, how many of you have been a believer for over 30 years? Guys, I've barely been alive for over 30 years. I'm not trying to make you feel old. I'm saying, maybe that did make you feel old. Here's what I'm saying. You guys have so much experience and knowledge of God. You've walked with Him for decades. That's incredible. I know that. I see that. And I'm thinking, if we have a group of people like that, they have more experience with the Lord than I have with life. That group of people walking in intentionality, I'm telling you, it's going to rock the world. And so here are some areas I thought I'm going to offer up some real challenges in intentionality. And the first one is one I don't know. And here's what I mean by that. As you hear this message of intentionality, as you let this soak in to your heart, this idea of being and walking intentionally each moment of each day, God is going to show you, or already has right now in your mind, you know it. He's going to show you an area that you need to be more intentional. Some area in your life, I just trust that the Lord's going to do that because He is good, and if you seek Him, you don't have to go far because He has been waiting for you. And so that may be, I need to be more intentional with my spouse. Gosh, I know there are times I got to do that. Maybe it's I got to be more intentional with my kids. I got to be more intentional in my quiet time. I was talking to my wife about this. I always bounce all my sermons and thoughts about this, and she was talking about being intentional. We homeschool our kids, and being intentional with the kids and having that time to teach them. I don't know what that is, but I believe God does, and so you will if you ask Him. Find that area you're meant to be intentional and seek after that. Here's the next one. Just like I've talked about. Reach the lost. Get them. And here, when I say the lost, I think there are two types of lost people. Follow me here. One type of lost people are Christians that aren't obeying God. Now, those people are saved. They're not lost like spiritually headed for separation from God, but they're lost in this life. They have lost their way. Those people are lost. The other people that are lost people, the second group, are unsaved people. They don't even know the guiding light. They have no shot at following the path. Reach the lost. Both those groups of people need to follow Jesus. And I think if you're intentional about reaching the lost, your life is going to look a lot like the sticker challenge, where every person you see, you wonder if they're following Christ. And you know that you have Christ, you have the answer, and so you have to find out and offer them the help they need. Every person you see is a question until you've asked. Some simple things are, you go to church anywhere? I know going to church doesn't make you Christian anymore, that sleeping in the garage makes you a car, right? But the idea is, that's an area of basic obedience God's asked of his believers. So reach people. See them as an opportunity. See them as people God's called you to reach. And ask and reach, invite, share the gospel with them. Because I think it's incredible to just share the gospel with a lost person. I know that's difficult for people, and I know that can be uncomfortable. I think you should call to do it. Sometimes you may not even have the time to do it. You know how long it takes to invite somebody to church? Like no time. And how incredible that is. We know that's an important thing, that's where God wants people. I think, if I'm right, Conrad, Rachel, weren't you just eating at a restaurant and Gayla just invited you to, who was that? To church here? I love these people. I think you do too. Obviously, they're incredible people. We really love Sophie, and that's how you get Sophie, is you get Conrad and Rachel, but how easy is that, right, Gayla? I mean, all you did, I'm guessing you just turned around and invited them to church. Gayla's always talking. We love that. I love that. What faithfulness. What an example of faithfulness that was. I love that. Thank you. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I want to fill up the churches in this city. I want them all full. The believing ones. There's some churches I probably want empty. I want to fill up the churches in this city. There's a bunch of great churches. Jared and I know a lot of the pastors. Paul knows every pastor in Oklahoma. They all look up to him. It's pretty incredible. Don't you want to fill up all our friends' churches, all these pastors we love? I want to fill up their churches. And now, I'm not trying to be prideful like, oh, you just care about numbers. No. It's not about me. God's called us to faith. Where in your life has been the key area, the most consistent area that you've heard in the Word of God, you've learned about God, and you've worshiped Him? I bet the answer is church for 95% of us. Plus, God's commanded us to be there. Let's fill them up. Let's fill them up. I think it starts really simply. We talk about this. I know I'm a math guy. People talk about this. This is the thing. But find one. Find one person. Find an easy one. Get the low-hanging fruit. I've brought it up before. Find somebody. How many people do you know either aren't believers or are not active in a church? How many people do you walk across in the city that need Christ? Get one. Go get one. Get them plugged in. Maybe they don't live around here. Great. If you don't know of one, ask Jared or Paul or I. We'll tell you a great church that you could introduce them to. There's tons of them. You know, I think that if I offered $1,000 for every person that you could get to join our church in the next 3 months, I'd go broke fast. Money motivates. Let's be that intentional. Because there's a lot more value to following in God and receiving the glory, Him receiving the glory, and you receiving the blessings of the Lord than $1,000. You know, I even think in the city, love the churches and the pastors in this city. I had a great conversation with Brent at Hillspring and Chuck, who's the leader of our local network, another pastor in town, just seeing their heart. And I thought, we've got 20,000 people in this city. I think that's right. Somebody Sand Springsians, about 20,000 people. I looked up. As of 2017, it was about 20,000. Sand Springsian, is that not a thing? You guys are Sandite. We're Sandites. I am a Sandite. Sandite. It's such a weird word. We got to fix that. Sandites. 20,000 people probably in this city. That's just in Sand Springs alone. So I was like, first of all, you need a bunch of churches to reach 20,000 people. I'm sorry, I don't want a 20,000 person church. Ugh. I won't know any of you. And so I was like, let me look at the neighborhoods. And so what I did is I went to Google Maps and I got a satellite view. And I looked at just the houses around us. And there's a bunch of neighborhoods around. So I looked like at 51st Street out there where you guys are at, right? All those neighborhoods. I looked right around here. We got a bunch of you that live like right here by the church, just south of Salvation Army. Looked around there, kind of the mobile home park right here by us. And just these neighborhoods, essentially anyone who could walk to church if they wanted. Now maybe like a mile, but essentially just the people who could walk to church. And based upon the estimations of the number of people in a household, there's probably between 2,000 and 3,000 people, 2,000 or 3,000 people that could walk to Angus Church on Sunday morning. Then I looked, how many of those people attend church? And so I looked at the most recent study of the percent of families that attend church regularly in the state of Oklahoma, and it's 41%. Which means 59%, let's say 60% of the 2,000 people that live around us don't attend church regularly. It said over 80% of those people believe that God is for sure real, but only 41 of them attend church, which means that if we just reach the people in our neighborhood that aren't attending church, there would be over 1,200 new people here next week. 1,200! We have the biggest sanctuary in the city, and I couldn't fit 1,200 in here. You know what I also have seen in those studies? 75% of lost people say that they would go to church if somebody just invited them. So why aren't those people in church? The answer is simple. Christians don't invite them. Now, I'm not trying to condemn us. It's not that. That should be a motivating factor. How incredible is it that I can walk next door and am more likely to find a lost person who's willing to come to Christ, who's willing to come to church, than not? We don't even have to go far. How awesome is that? Let's fill the seats of every church in this city that believes in the Christ. That's my first challenge. That's my second challenge. Is that my second challenge? I don't know. I'm not good with numbers. That's my second challenge. Here's another one. Prayer. This is really the first one. Intentionality in prayer. Be intentional in your prayer life. Like I've said, don't throw up half-hearted prayers into nothingness. I get into the habit of that. I do. I hope you guys are better than me in that, but there are times in my life where I'm just spewing out recited words into the air. Be intentional. Really spend time with God. Pray for yourself. Pray for your faith in God. Pray that He'd help you trust in Him and to see Him. Pray for your friends. Pray for your family. Pray for the lost. Pray for opportunities. Pray for our leaders. I think that's where it all starts. Waking up each morning with prayer and intentionality in each day, I think will change your life. I've seen it in others, and I'm trying to be better about it myself. But I see Paul nodding his head, and if Paul says yes, that means it's true. Here's something cool. Now, Paul, do you think I'm allowed to share about our meeting? Okay. Last week, Paul and I met with some other pastors in Oklahoma, and we met with Kevin and Sarah Stitt, our governor and his wife. And it's kind of a private meeting that wasn't supposed to be out there yet, so please don't go posting this online. We were asked not to, even though I'm doing that right now. So we're talking with, I have to bring it to the church to be able to, for us to get to be a part of this awesome thing that's happening. Kevin and Sarah had a heart. I didn't know much about them. I don't know how you feel about Governor Stitt. I'm not really worried about that. I don't really know much about him politically. What I saw is this is a man and woman who love Christ. They are real believers. And so, not trying to get into a political thing, I'm trying to say our governor and his wife believe in Jesus for real. They really try to follow him with their life. And they really felt, especially Sarah, really felt like they had an opportunity to take a next step in seeking the Lord for our state. And it started, I believe, with them feeling like they needed to have some time in prayer and fasting before the Lord for the state of Oklahoma and different things we're going through. There's a lot of areas that our state is in first where you want to be in last, or they're in last when you want to be in first. And they just kept praying and seeking the Lord on it and felt like they wanted to take a step that's kind of unprecedented in the United States. And that is the governor, the political leader of our state, partnering with churches. And what they want to do is they want to get at least 31 churches in the state of Oklahoma to partner with them. And so that each church would take one day of the month, and the church would pray and fast that day, and that we'd pray and fast over some key area together as a state. And so 365 days of 2021, the governor, the political leader of our state will be partnering with the churches in prayer and fasting to see God change the state. I'm telling you, that doesn't happen. I don't think that's anything like that's ever happened. I think that there'll be all kinds of people that'll make fun of our state, of our governor, of our churches, thinking, oh, you think the answer to your problem is prayer and fasting. That's so funny. Yeah. Yep, I do. And I want to be a part of that. So we're going to be a part of that. We haven't organized everything yet, and we're still working that. We're going to meet as the pastors with Kevin and Sarah at least every quarter together in a time of prayer and fasting. God's commanded us. Do you know that? He's commanded us to fast. It's not something that's done a lot. We're going to start doing it. God's command. I know this church has had there's been a history of prayer and fasting in this church. I love that. In Colorado, we fasted Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning every month, and we came together as a church the first Saturday of every month at noon in a time of prayer before the Lord and just finding out what God's been doing. We're going to introduce this step of obedience back into this church, and I'm excited to get to be a part of that. We're going to be one of those 30 churches in the state of Oklahoma partnering with our government, and that's going to be incredible. Could you imagine if something like that got contagious and took off from state to state, right? We're the Bible Belt of America. I could see Kansas and Arkansas. I could see this. Oh, could you imagine? So we're going to, as a church, we're going to have one day a month. I don't know what that day is yet. I'll let you know as soon as possible. We're going to pray and fast as a church. If you haven't been a part of that, I'm going to take some time really soon in the next couple weeks. And I'm going to speak on fasting. I might have Jared and Paul. Maybe we'll put something out online. We'll get some information to you on fasting. There's a lot of type of fasting in the world. Hey, we're going to be here for a minute, so I hope you guys are comfy in your seats. So I'm sorry. Sometimes I got to preach a little longer. All right, thank you. You can fast is just withholding from something. You can fast from a lot of things. People fast from their cell phones or electronics, so they'll fast from different types of things. And the scriptures are pretty universally clear that the fasting that God has asked of us is fasting from food. So it's not eating food. And so you would take that day you would fast. The human body can easily go 40 days without food and survive. And so I think one day in Americans, listen, I might be able to fast 2021, y'all. I put on the COVID 30. God's commanded us to fast. It doesn't stranglehold the Lord. It doesn't do anything. It's not making God do what you want. You're seeing how powerful your flesh is, and you're concentrating on the Lord, and you're going to see Him in a unique way. And we're going to commit a day of the month. And we're going to pray with our other churches and with our governor and his wife over some key things for the state of Oklahoma, and we're going to pray for this city and this church. So I'd love for you guys to be a part of that with me. More information will be coming. But do that in your personal life. Be intentional in prayer. Intentional in prayer. It's going to change things. Here's the last one. Last one from me. Intentionally seek where and how you're meant to serve. And I think people serve in 3 big areas of their life. First is you serve in your home. God's placed you in a home. You serve in your home. I don't know what that looks like with your family. Be more intentional in serving in your home. I know that there was a season of my life where I was so overwhelmed with running a nonprofit and pastoring a church and doing so many things that I was so overwhelmed there that I went home and I turned off. And I was the opposite. I wasn't even accidentally good at home. I was bad. Thankfully, my wife is wonderful and stuck through me in those days and those months. Be intentional with your family. Be intentional at home. The second big area I think that we serve is outside of our house, right? So that's in our community. Look for ways to intentionally impact others with the love of Jesus Christ. Be intentional in serving in your community. I don't know exactly what that could look like. It could look like a number of different things. And as you guys know, Angus Cares is there to help you, right? It's there to help you if you need it. This is our first year of Angus Cares. God did some amazing things this year. I think I have it down here. I was going to put up a graphic, but I'm sorry, one of our projectors has finally died, and so I chose to not do a graphic until we can get our projectors replaced and working. I just printed off some. I just typed up a quick list of the things I had easy access to this morning of some Angus Cares things, right? This is intentionally impacting the world around us with the love of Jesus Christ and doing it in whatever way God lays on your heart. If God laid it on your heart to do, that means God laid it on Angus Church's heart to do because you are Angus Church. And so that's what Angus Cares is about. We partner with, if you don't know about the ministry, we can partner with you to help put a team together, help lead, help organize. We provide finances. 6% of every dollar that comes in goes into our outreach ministry that is Angus Cares. Here's just some of the things we did. We provided financial support to Harry Layden Counseling as well as to David Willett's Grief Care. We created the Marketplace, which is a vendor fair in Sand Springs. We did it for 5 months this year. Over 100 businesses were a part of that. And every month, we took half of every dollar that came in and gave it back to one of those vendors to just show love to our community and our small businesses and those mom and pop shops. We did that for 5 months this year. This year, at the anniversary of the flood, we created an event, the flood anniversary, just recognizing that there are people that went through a lot, and we showcased the just camaraderie and the spirit of Sand Springs in Oklahoma and people coming together. We also provided support to those families that were still struggling and in need. That was pretty cool. I got to interview the legend that is Travis Meyer. We did food distribution multiple times out of this church, partnering with other churches in our community. We did an event for women in difficult situations with painful pasts to help them and be there for them. We put in appliances at people's houses that were in need. We fed starving families in Bolivia. We partnered with Vine and Branches Ministries, our partner ministry in Mexico, in just a number of ways. We've taken 2 trips there. We bought them a washer to wash clothes when all the ministry teams are down there, a lawnmower. We planted trees there. We painted. We brought boxes of Bibles, craft supplies, all kinds of things. The list could go on. That's where we met Adriana, was Vine and Branches in Mexico. And so we've got to partner with the incredible work they're doing down there. We purchased cooking supplies for one of Mobile Mission's community centers. We also bought shoes for kids in need in one of those community centers. I don't know how normal it is for a pastor to drink from a cup of another church on Sunday morning, but we love you, Church Inside Out and Mobile Missions. Obviously, we provided every day and every week they office in our church. They didn't have a home to office, and so they office here. That's part of what Angus Cares does, is show love, and so we've provided that office space for them. We worked with Samaritan's Purse this year, and we've brought nearly 500 kids we got to be a part of, nearly 500 kids getting a Christmas they would have never had this year. Man, we made stockings for families in need. We bought school supplies for kids. We bought school supplies for our teachers. The list goes on. That was just this year. Isn't that awesome? That's the faithfulness of our God, the faithfulness of our people. How incredible is that? Now, let me ask this. This is going to be interesting. With all that Angus Cares has done this year, raise your hand if you put an Angus Cares request in this year to lead a project. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people. Thank you. The entire Poletic family. That's not surprising. Think about that. Think about how incredible that is. Now, I know a ton of you were a part of that. And so I'm not speaking, this is not a negative, but consider 7 people applied to have an Angus Cares project to be a part of. And that is what came out of it. Intentionally serve your community with the love of Christ. The last area that I believe that we serve people is right here. You serve right here in the church. As you guys know, it takes every one of us to do what God wants to be done here at this church, right? When one person isn't serving God as they have been created to do, we are an incomplete puzzle. It's kind of how that works. That's how God created us, and that's His plan. And so serve here as well. Find out what God's doing. And so, when I think about this idea of being intentional, I think, do you want to be a part of a church that's growing? Grow your church. Do you want to be a part of a church that cares about kids? Serve in kids ministry. Do you want to be a part of a church that reaches the lost? Then go reach the lost. Do you want to be a part of a church that serves the community? Then go serve the community. Whatever that you want your church to be is what you should be. Because the church is not this beautiful building, it's the people sitting in it. We are the church everywhere we go. And so we can be whatever church that God has called us to be, that He has placed in our heart and our desire to be, because it is just us. Serve and be it. And you are an incredible body of believers. And so I've been here a little less than 2 years, and I've seen God move in incredible ways, despite what would seem like overwhelmingly difficult circumstances. And God still moves. And we get to be a part of that because you are a faithful body of believers, an incredible group of believers. And so, here's the word. Intentional. Be intentional in your life, in your walk, in your prayer, in reaching the lost, in serving your community, in growing and serving in your church. Whatever it is, wake up each day. Seek the Lord and watch your steps. And I'm telling you, we're going to see God move in incredible ways. Jesus started with 12, and one of them was kind of a lemon. And the entire world is coming to know Him. When I look at the disciples, I see much less mature believers than you. Can I say that? Right? Is that what you see when you read through scriptures? Because He just chose real people. We are real people. And so God's placed this word intentional on us for 2021. And if we will do it, and it's not easy because it takes humility and it takes intentionality, obviously. You have to be purposed. You have to be willing to seek and follow the Lord. But if you will do it, I'm telling you, we're going to see God do incredible things. And even though, we're not going to turn the clocks to January 1st, 2021 and COVID's going to disappear, right? It doesn't work like that. There's still going to be problems in this world. But I can see that God is already moving. I can see we get to be a part of this. Thank you, Pastor Paul, for bringing our church into this thing with our governor. I can see God starting to do so. He's saying, hey, listen, me and Janet, I won't go into it, but we were talking a couple weeks ago about the idea that if you start just seeking God's opportunities, He's just going to lay opportunities in your lap, isn't He? Haven't you seen that? We were just talking about that. He'll start doing that. And I think that's what He's doing for our church. He's saying, I'm laying some opportunities in your lap. Are you going to be obedient? Are you going to be intentionally and faithfully following me? Because if you will, you get to watch me move. And that's what I want to do. I want to watch God move. Will you pray with me?